trying to bring young people and older people together, because you sort of think that, you stay within groups, don't you? You stay within your own age group-ish, and you don't want to be mixing with old people, and why would old people want to mix with young people? Well, you get a lot out of it, and don't take my word for it, take Tash's word for it. Tash, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you this morning?
Yeah, I'm okay, thank you.
Now, you are how old?
19.
19, and
Yeah.
you're in Hartcliffe at the moment, is that right?
Yeah, that is right.
Okay, and you do, I'm told, you do cooking classes with older people.
Yeah, I do. I did it through the summer. I did 2 5-week courses with lots of different elderly people in different areas. So I did one in Henbury and then one in Bristol through LinkAge.
We're going to be hearing more from LinkAge in the next hour. Tell me about it. Why, when you went to the course in Henbury, when you walked in the door for the first time, what were you thinking?
I was a bit apprehensive because obviously, like, young people and older people don't really mix together, but it was quite a change of, like, my mind, because first of all I was like, I don't know if they're willing to interact with me, and would I be willing to interact with them. But like, they were really friendly towards me, and like didn't really have like a view of me of like, whereas I thought they did. Like, I just thought, they didn't want to mix with like young people. The same with us, we don't really want to mix with older people. But in the cooking classes, it brought like us together, and it was really nice to have like a friendship like there through the classes. It was really nice.
Have you stayed in contact with the people you did it with in Henbury?
I see them regularly, and they remember me.
Brilliant.
But it's really nice. But yeah, I've got a job out of it, and I find it really easy to go into the job and talk to the older people now that I didn't have that like stereotype of them sort of thing.
You're touching on, Tash, you're touching on something here that I think is actually really important, and you've proved the point that you thought that the older people would have an image of you.
Yeah.
What did you think that image was that old people have of you, Tash?
That we were like just like not willing to interact with them or help them or anything like that, and like just not really bothering about them. The same with them not really bothering with us as well, really. And I think they learned a lot as well through the cooking classes, that actually we do care about like older people, and that we do want to help them. And they find it a lot easier, I think we both did, to like communicate through the cooking, and I think they now have gone away having a better like.
And I bet you found, because you always do, and I can say this because I speak to, as you probably appreciate, Tash, I speak to a lot of people every day, is that actually you've got a lot more in common than you think you've got.
Yeah, definitely. Like, it was lovely to hear all their stories, and actually like for us to tell them stories as well, because obviously it's different generations, and they've obviously been through a lot in their time, and now we can teach them a bit more about what we're going through now, like currently.
So there's just, to anybody who's older, listening to you and me talking right now, who may be thinking, for whatever reason, maybe it's because of what they see or what they read, that they don't want to mix with young people, what would you say?
I would say to both ages, us and the older people, just to give it a try, just talk to people, and you'll soon see that we're both nice, and that we're both willing to like support the other person, and just even if it's just a like ear to talk to, or like someone just to be there and sit with, like we will do that, and we're not all the same sort of thing. Like, we can help the older person out, and as for the older person, they can help us out too.
Tash, you've been an inspiring phone call this morning. Really good to hear from you. Thank you very much for joining me. Have a great weekend.
All right, thank you.
There's Tash there in Hartcliffe, 19 years old, did a couple of cooking classes, part of LinkAge earlier this year with older people, and is all the better for it. Your friends, your young friends, your old friends, in age terms, who are they? How did you meet? And does it matter? Does age matter when it comes to friendship? And Shine on BBC Radio Bristol. We were thought in the studio, we were witnessing a very strange moment. The Shadow Chancellor, Ed Balls, the Labour MP, was being eaten by a giant spider. No, he wasn't. But he's been on the news channel. He was talking to Julian Warwicker, and there was obviously a spider on the camera that was part of the backdrop, and this spider was coming towards Ed Ball's head. It was like something out of Doctor Who. You'll probably see a clip of it on one of the the outtakes channels. It's not me. I haven't lost my mind. My guest now, Ricky Bush. You saw it too, didn't you, Ricky?
I did. Indeed, yeah,
Ed Ball's there being eaten by a giant spider.
He was indeed.
It's not true. Ed Balls is alive and well. Just to make absolutely clear, there is no spiders involved, or harmed indeed, in this news story. Ricky Bush is with me here now from Stockwood, works with LinkAge, and has been part of a project called the Summer of Age. And we've already heard, Ricky, from Tash from this project and what she's done. I'll come back to that in just a moment. How did you get involved with LinkAge?
Well, my background has always been working with young people. So I'm a sports coach by trade, working with young people across the city, delivering sort of mainly sports coaching sessions. I worked for a fantastic organisation called Young Bristol for 8 years. So to then join an organisation who focuses on working with over 55s, as LinkAge does, was a little bit of a change. But the similarities between working with those two age groups are so clear, and it's been fantastic to see sort of how similar they are.
Similarities?
Yes.
So it isn't a difference then between working with older people than it is with working with younger people?
No, a lot of the issues sort of affect both age groups really, in terms of isolation, getting involved in local communities, issues around transport, finance. So a lot of the issues are still the same. A lot of people always talk about the differences, but there is a lot of similarities between those two age groups.
more that binds them than divides them?
Oh, very much so. Okay. Very much so.
Now, you started with young people.
Yeah.
Why didn't you start with old people? Or older people?
Yeah, I think it was just a sort of path I decided to take from school, really.
Because you wanted to relate perhaps to people that you knew?
Yeah, I think so.
That were closer to you?
Yeah.
See where I'm going with this?
Yes. Obviously, it's an easy one working with someone of your own age group, your peers, your friends. You understand that age group a lot more than you do the other age group, the sort of older generation. But only when you sort of start really getting together and having conversations and talking about stuff, you realise how similar we all are.
So why do you think, Ricky, we have this in our heads that you stick to who you know, and you stick to what you know, whether it's your socio-economic group, whether it's your racial profile, but probably more than anything else, it's your demographic. You stay within your peer group, probably 5, maybe 10 years either side, but that's as far as it goes. Anything outside that, you don't really connect. Why? Why do you think that is?
I think that's just sort of safety of being with someone you know. Some people are a bit reluctant to sort of step out of their comfort zone, so they like to stick with what they know, who they know, and don't really like change, to be honest. So,
is it stereotypes?
Oh, massively. Yeah, stereotypes. I think the media play a massive part in that. A lot of the stories you hear, predominantly about young people, tend to be negative. I think a recent survey that took place was, I think it's 82% of all media stories about young people is negative. So that is pretty much what people are seeing, and people then make their own perceptions.
Now, is that here I am talking to you, and I am, working for the BBC and the media. Is that actually because young people do naughty things, so they are reported? Or is it, do you think, the media is overtly looking for young people doing naughty things because that sells newspapers? It feeds a prejudice.
It does, yeah, very much so.
Which one? The first or the second?
The second one, most definitely. Some young people are, as some people describe it, a menace in their local society, but not all young people. And it sells stories, doing a story about a young person robbing a local older person, as opposed to a young person being involved in their local community and giving something back.
So then, let's follow that through. So David Cameron talking about, before he was elected Prime Minister, hug a hoodie. And there was this whole hoodie culture.
Yeah.
And it was about children walking around with their hoods up, looking at the ground, and older people felt menaced by that.
Yeah. And that happens. That is going on out there. But unfortunately, that is all a lot of people see in the media. They don't see the good stuff that's going on.
So they don't hear what Tash had to say this morning about what she got out of walking with in trepidation, walking into a room, knowing that she was going to learn to cook and meet and connect with older people. She was nervous, and now she's got friends.
Yeah, very much so.
Who are 25, 30 years older than her, and some.
Yeah, very much so.
And some. What about you? We'll take a pause for a piece of music in just a moment. But what about you? When you made that leap from working with younger people and doing sport to working with older people. What was that? What was your first day like?
A little bit nervous, to be honest.
What were you nervous of?
What it was going to be like being with older people. I've got my own sort of perception from grandparents and sort of other friends of my grandparents. I'm one of those, I will sort of talk to anybody really, but being with older people I haven't met before, what their perceptions of me was going to be, whether I would get on with them, whether they'd be able to connect with me, and vice versa really.
So was that more, Ricky, about you and your perceptions of them, or were you more worried about their perceptions of you?
I think it was the perception of what they would have of me based on what they've heard in the past about young people.
So they look at you and you think, what did you think they would think you were?
I was a young person. I would know everything. Because I'm a local worker, I would come in and make things happen what I want to do, which is the complete opposite to what LinkAge and also how I work personally. But people have their own images of what people are going to be like and how things are going to go. So
because we're fed these types, these archetypes.
Yeah.
Well, Ricky Bush is here. He's from Stockwood and he's from LinkAge. We're going to have more about what LinkAge have been doing this summer, and indeed what LinkAge continue to do to bring the generations together. So more from Ricky after Herman's Summits. Here in the studio now is Ricky Bush from Stockwood. He works with LinkAge, and we're talking about that bringing together of the generations. Now, you've been doing this with LinkAge, and we heard from Tash earlier in this morning's programme. She's from Hartcliffe. She went cooking with older people.
Yeah.
Sounds simple. Clearly it wasn't, because Tash had anticipation. How easy was it to get the older people involved in this?
Well, with the cooking, for instance, we tended to get a lot of older gentlemen who had relied on a sort of wife or a partner over the years to do the cooking. And then when that partner sort of passes away, a lot of older gentlemen struggle to do the cooking. So
that's a big problem for men, isn't it? Because they become completely de-skilled.
Yeah, massively.
And if they're on their own as a widower, they struggle making friends, and they also don't have the skills because they haven't used them for years.
That's right, yeah. And
decades even.
And it was a case of advertising the cooking clubs to local older people, and I think we never advertised the fact that it would be a young person leading the class. So I think when Tash and some of the other young people we work with turn up on the day, there's a little bit of shock sort of from both sides really. But as the sessions went on, it was more of a case of just sharing skills and knowledge that both of them did have, which in some cases was quite minimal, but they were working together on something and using what skills and knowledge they had to do a cooking class together, which is fantastic. So
here we have one example of the Summer of Age.
Yeah.
Lots still obviously going on because it was running from from July and through till August. What about that perception of older people? You just touched on it there. In walks a young person to start teaching. What do they know? I mean, that's the archetype again, is it?
It is, yeah.
Is there a negative reaction at all initially? Be honest.
Yeah, sometimes there is.
Yeah.
Sometimes there is, and it's not. We don't always. Some of the activities we put on won't always be intergenerational. If there's not a meaningful reason to bring those two age groups together, we won't. And it's not just about bringing them together just to have a nice chat. That's lovely, but it's also about, as we said, changing those stereotypes, sharing skills and knowledge that both those groups bring to the table. We have things like IT classes which they're run by young people who have lots and lots of knowledge of IT, with older people who want to learn how to get online. But also, the other side of that is older people. We've had wood carving classes, an older gentleman who spent 40, 50 years in the wood carving industry, now sharing those skills with young disadvantaged
people. So what we've got is obviously skills that can be passed up or passed down. They're fluid. They can, a river of this. We get a lot of MPs and a lot of local politicians talking about what we can do to make society better and, big society, whatever little phrase you choose to call it. Obviously, organisations such as LinkAge or Age UK or whatever, doing loads of work actually at the, what they call the coalface with people. You're in a very unique position, Ricky, because you work with young people and you're now working with older people. You're trying to bring the two together. What needs to be done? What would make your life easier?
I think you kind of touched on it there. Us guys, not just myself, but lots of development workers across the city, we're working directly with young people and with older people So we're hearing what people want, what people actually want to hear.
That's why I'm asking you, rather than someone going, well, I want your vote and all that nonsense. You're there with them. So what do they want? What would make your job easier?
These MPs and other people need to listen to what we're saying, because, like we said, we're there on the ground with them. They need to listen to what we're saying, because we're saying what local people want, and that's where it should be.
So what do they want? From those who came together, what do they want?
They just want to be more involved in their community. They want to feel a stronger community, and be able to get on with other people of different age groups, really. Even down to just saying hello, walking down the street to someone of a different age groups, plays a massive part in some people's life.
So if it was as simple, I don't know, maybe it's as simple, because I did this exercise. I tried to train for the Bristol 10K. Didn't quite work out. I got round-ish. I did an exercise one Sunday morning, because I live in Portishead, and I ran round the lake. I was running around, and I thought, I'll do 3 circuits later, and I'll run around the field. And I thought, I've got to make this interesting, because I hate running. And I can't run with headphones because they fall out of my ears. So I thought, I'm going to do a little social experiment. And I'm going to run around the lake, and every person I see, I'm going to say, good morning. And I was sweating and out of breath. And I said, good morning. Some said, good morning back, reflex reaction. Some were utterly surprised by me going, good morning, good morning. Others didn't know what to do. Looked away, looked at the ground, looked at me as if I was a purple-faced lunatic. It was a very interesting social experience. And I think we're lacking that. I don't know, that simple human interaction.
It is.
And young people who say good morning to older people, or older people saying good morning to young people, initially it probably would be, oh, blimey, that's, they're going to nick my wallet or whatever.
Yes.
And the reality is, of course, they're not.
No.
9 times out of 10. And it may actually bring conversation up. I don't know, that's just an idea.
Sometimes it takes a bit of time for the 2 age groups to sort of build that relationship. It doesn't always happen overnight. We've had some fantastic examples, such as Tash, and that was over a sort of...
Tash is an inspiration this morning.
Fantastic.
One of the best calls we've had this week, and we've had some cracking calls this week, but she was brilliant.
But that relationship Tash has built with those older people didn't happen in the first hour, in the first session. It took a couple of weeks for them to get on, trust each other. So just being able to say hello to someone can sometimes be the start of that relationship.
But if you said teenager from Hartcliff, I'm not even going to give the connotation out there. I say teenager from Hartcliff, you can fill in the gaps now. Anyone listening right now will fill in the gaps.
Yeah, of course you can.
And Tash couldn't be further away from any of those gaps if you tried.
Yeah, very much so. Tash is just in my opinion, another young person who wants to do something, wants to be involved, wants to improve her own skill set to become a better young person. And yeah, it's back to the stereotypes. It's back to what people hear in the press.
Ricky, it's been great having you on talking about this. I know LinkAge continue to do work. You can put LinkAge, one phrase, into a search engine of your choice and find your local LinkAge branch. Ricky Bush, thank you very much for coming in this morning. And maybe, just as an idea, all of us today say good morning or good afternoon to somebody when we're walking past. And just, not to be funny, just to mean it and see what response we get. If we all said that a little bit more, maybe we might get a few more smiles. Just a thought.
BBC Radio Bristol.